Many of you will be going to big, fun events this July 4th America 250th weekend. Fireworks, concerts, barbecues, parades. Well, there is a parade in the tiny town of Nicholville, but it's not what you'd expect. It's one family that has marched and whooped and sang down the main drag every July 4th for 57 years. And this one might be the last. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Pearsall Wealth Management of Raymond James, Glens Falls, offering financial planning and investing advice to clients for over 40 years. Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Thursday, July 2nd. First up, state officials held a ribbon cutting in Massena last week to celebrate the completion of a huge 7-year project to upgrade New York's power grid. A new 100-mile power line carries electricity from the hydropower dam in Massena downstate more quickly and efficiently. It cost $1.5 billion to build, but officials say it'll save ratepayers multiple times that and speed up the transition to energy that doesn't cause climate change. Here's my story from Massena. Bluebird skies frame giant electric transmission towers in every direction. And below them, about a dozen officials cut a New York Power Authority ribbon. This brand new Haverstock substation in Massena is the pivot point for 3 major upgraded power lines, a project called Smart Path Connect. Construction engineer Kyle Murray points out where one comes from the massive Moses Saunders hydropower dam on the St. Lawrence River.
Out this corner, we've got our Haverstock to Willis HW lines.
That goes to Clinton County.
And in the far northwest corner, you can't barely see it, are our 2 lines that go down to Adirondack.
Way down in the Mohawk Valley. They replaced miles of wooden poles and antiquated lines erected in the 1950s and 60s. Trish Lombardi of the New York Power Authority says these lines can push more electricity downstate more efficiently.
From where the power is being generated from, right, up here at St. Lawrence. There are a lot of renewables, right, trying to come onto the grid. So what you see here is really like a very robust backbone.
Lombardi says that new high-tech backbone will save ratepayers about $438 million a year, or more than $1 a month on every resident's electric bill. NYPA's Girish Bahal says, think of it like putting a 4-lane highway where there used to be a 2-lane road.
You basically let people move a lot more easier. They use less gas, they spend less time on the road. It lowers cost for everyone who's involved.
The Smart Path Connect project is a win for Governor Kathy Hochul in a year she's taken a lot of hits over her response to climate change. She pushed the legislature to roll back its ambitious climate law, moving a benchmark to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030. Now it's 60% by 2040. That angered environmentalists. But she said it was needed because New York has been slow to bring renewable sources of energy online, in part because the transmission grid was outdated.
If we can't guarantee that we can move the power from where it's generated to where it's needed, then that introduces risk.
Risk that scares off companies that build and invest in wind and solar and battery storage, says Lindsay Anderson, who's an expert in renewables and transmission grids at Cornell University. She says the completion of Smart Path Connect sends a positive signal to the industry.
It signals that we're willing to invest to get the infrastructure in place to modernize and increase capacity so that we can continue to move towards this decarbonization strategies.
The new lines also open up space for another gigawatt of electric supply from the North Country. More solar, more wind, even nuclear. State Senator Dan Steck says, yes, those can be controversial, but overall, more electric generation can juice the regional economy.
There's all kinds of studies that show over history there's a direct correlation between energy generation, consumption, and economic activity. So if we're generating power, there's going to be economic activity here, which is good for the taxpayer, good for the ratepayers, good for all of us.
And more generation will be critical in the coming years. The system operator that runs the grid says it's getting squeezed by an increase in demand coming from electric cars and big new users like Micron's semiconductor plants and new data centers. all while fossil fuel plants are aging and the state is scrambling to replace them with a new clean energy future. David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio, Massena. In St. Lawrence County, one family has been celebrating the 4th of July for decades with a unique tradition, its very own parade. Catherine Wheeler reports.
Duncan Cutter says it all began back in 1969. The family was gathering at their homestead in Nicholville for the 4th of July. Cutter says they were talking about a recent parade his mother had been a part of when an idea struck. They could do that too. Cutter says on the 4th, they ran to the barn out back where the family had saved generations of old clothes, some dating back to the mid-1800s. They put together the goofiest costumes they could.
They dress up and arm themselves with some kind of noisemakers. 7 of the grandchildren out of 9 played instruments. So we had trumpets and trombones and you name it.
They made posters and set off around 11 a.m. for a short walk across the tiny town of Nicholville in eastern St. Lawrence County. It's about halfway between Potsdam and Malone.
And all we do is walk up the street because the houses don't go very far, 200 yards, and then you're out of Nicholville. Then we turn around, go back down another 200 yards down to the post office.
Thus, the tradition was born, and the family has kept it up for the past 57 years. Rebecca Day Cutter, Duncan's niece, was born not long after it got started. She says over the years, they've incorporated the family dogs, pogo sticks, roller skates, stilts, wigs, anything wacky to up the ante. There are themes and still lots of noise. She sent us some videos from parades past.
You know any Metallica?
As we're marching, we want to sing songs, but no one can ever remember a full song. So we sort of string together little bits of any song that anyone can remember, and they just kind of bleed into each other.
All right, somebody else come up with another verse.
Duncan Cutter says the most important part of the parade is the very end, the family photo.
We always look forward to ending up down on the post office. Of course, it's closed because it's a holiday, but that's the place where we've always taken our pictures. And somewhere scattered through our various houses, we have at least 50 pictures of the parade.
But their day doesn't end with that. Rebecca Cutter says they go back home for a big picnic and then head to the river.
We would get the inner tubes out of the barn and get our river sneakers on. And we'd go up with the inner tube over our heads and walk along the river and put in. And it was a big rite of passage. I think I was 13 when my father allowed me to go down the river for the first time. And, you know, it was a little scary, exciting. We'd go all the way down to the bridge and then get out, and then we'd walk up and do it again.
She says this tradition embodies the things their family cares about.
To be together, to be silly, to be clever, to be creative. These were all like family values that I think came out on that day. And
this weekend, the Cutters will hold their 57th 4th of July parade. Duncan Cutter says he and his wife Lois are in their 90s, and they aren't taking it for granted.
I suspect it may be one of the last parades that we have. We can't live forever. It's just that the young people are moving away, and it's more difficult for them to get together. Even to find a place to sleep here at night.
Cutter says he may not be able to do the entire route this year, but he'll definitely make it to the Nicholville post office.
I think I can do half the parade, up to the end of the street and back, or maybe I'll let them take the first leg of it, and Lois and I will go down for the last leg down to the post office for the annual picture.
Rebecca Cutter says the family is all planning to show up dressed in their best. And even if it's the last one, they'll keep finding ways to come together and make memories. Catherine Wheeler, North Country Public Radio in Nicholville.
Happy July 4th. Story of the Day will be off tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday. Music today by Evan Veenstra of Gananoque, Ontario, and Hank Soto of Stony Creek. Have a super great holiday weekend. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.